often feature grains called PDFs, or planar deformation features. Of the three phases of this process, the middle excavation phase is characterized by the formation of a bowl-shaped transient cavity that quickly collapses. The shock metamorphism induced by this process may leave behind a lens of breccia and rocks called tektites. This first Yes, for 10 points. A boom in this industry spurred the growth of the Brazilian city of Manaus. For 10 points each, name this industry centered on the tree Hevea brasiliensis. Belgian abuse of workers in this industry was documented by Roger. Casement also documented rubber industry abuses along this river that separates Colombia and Peru. Michael Tausig has written about the culture of terror that Casement described along this river. It's the Putumayo. This American tried to build a massive rubber plantation along the Amazon. In 1938, the Nazi government gave this man the Grand Cross of the German Eagle. 20 on the bonus. Toss-up number 2. A novel title for one of these events is narrated by the murdered 12-year-old son of a man whose blood donation business spreads HIV among the residents of Ding Village. Another novel opens with one of these events in which Jen Shi-yin sees a monk and a priest discuss a crimson pearl flower being watered by a magical stone. The flower and stone are later reincarnated as Lin Dayu and Jia Ba. Yes, for 10. And your bonus. India and Pakistan joined this organization in 2015. For 10 points each, name is Asian Political, Economic, and Security Organization dominated by Russia and China. Kazakhstan was its chair in 2017.
SCO.
Yep. India and Pakistan joined the SCO under a treaty signed in this capital city. Shavkat Mirziyoyev has governed from this city since an election after the death of Islam Karima. Most SEO observers are predicted to eventually become full members, with the notable exception of this country, where Ashraf Ghani has won a runoff against Abdullah in 2014.
Afghanistan.
30. Toss-up number 3. In Hawaiian myth, Kana fights a giant one of these animals at Haupu in order to return Hina to her husband. In Chinese myth, a hybrid of a dragon and this animal is called a bishi. Saving one of these for 15. And your bonus, this composer's piano sonata number 5, his first and only one movement, contains an epigraph from his essay, The Poem of Ecstasy. For 10 points each, name is Russian composer who used the color organ in Prometheus, The Poem of Fire.
Scriabin.
Yeah. Scriabin's opus 8, number 12, etude for piano is in this unusual key, the relative minor of F sharp major. It's like answer?
D minor.
It's D sharp minor. Scriabin's D sharp minor etude was a favorite showpiece of this virtuoso pianist who created a technically demanding transcription of the Stars and Stripes Forever that he premiered in 1945. That is Horowitz. 10 on the bonus. Toss-up. This man's reign is the last era discussed in the history of Marius Maximus. While working for this man, the eunuch Gannus defeated the first soldier emperor. This man, who established the Cenaculum, or Women's Senate, caused an uproar after he claimed to be the mistress of the charioteer Hierocles.
Like Stephen Gallus?
For 10, and your bonus. These devices alternate between opaque and transparent regions at radii that depend on the desired wavelength and focal length. For Nefertiti, these devices that focus light using diffraction.
Gratings.
It's a zone plate. To 2 decimal places, the maximum resolution of a zone plate equals the small zone width times what value. This quantity multiplies wavelength over diameter in the Rayleigh criterion. Answer.
Angular.
It's 1.22. A zone plate focuses light by promoting the constructive form of this process at the intended focal point.
Interference.
For 10. Toss-up number 5. A book about Polish synagogues inspired this man to produce a series of nail-less wooden sculptures. His love for fast cars was exemplified in Talladega from his colorful circuit series. This son of a house painter used house paints and brushes to create East Broadway. In the 1950s, this youngest of the 16 Americans painted a series of adjacent rectangles in his black paintings. For 10 points, name this artist whose The Marriage of Reason and Squall. For 10. This man's 1870 poetry collection, La Bonne Chanson, was inspired by his love for his fiancée Mathilde Motet. For 10 points each, name this author, who a decade later published a collection titled Wisdom after he had left Mathilde and gone to live with a male lover named Lucien Letinois. Answer?
Nah.
That is Paul Verlaine. Verlaine had an affair with Letinois after his affair with this poet who wrote A Season in Hell.
Remote.
Yes. This object's name appears in its adjectival form in the title of Verlaine's first book of poetry. Verlaine wrote a poem titled In the Manner of Paul Verlaine that refers to this object tilting up its urn.
Gets it.
For 20. Toss-up number 6. This paper discusses a sentence about Napoleon's recognition of the danger to his right flank in connection with subordinate clauses. This paper uses the example of a man set ashore at Ithaca while asleep to discuss why we want every proper name to have both of two related concepts. It opens by asserting differences in cognitive value between A equals A and A equals B. The identity Hesperus is phosphorus is discussed in
Frege sense and reference.
for 10. Keep on this man's first major sculpture was the double-sided tomb for Piero and Giovanni de Medici for 10 points each. He is a teacher of Leonardo, whose Venetian equestrian statue of the Condottiero Verrocchio sculpted a Christ and St. Thomas for one of the 14 niches on the outside of this church in Florence, which is also home to Donatello's St. Mark and St. Sorry? Yeah. The Guild of Stonecarvers and Woodworkers commissioned Nanni de Banco to sculpt this work for the facade of the Or San Michele.
4 crown markers.
30. Also, 3 or 4 angstrom molecular sieves drastically reduce the amount of catalyst required for this reaction, which sometimes uses the reagent DIPT. If this reaction's reactant is drawn with the hydroxyl group in the bottom right corner, then the SS or minus form of the catalyst preferentially attacked from above the page. Tert butyl hydroperoxide, diethyl tartrate, and titanium isopropoxide for 10. Your bonus. Robert Martin presented a handbook of this kind of software craftsmanship in clean code. For 10 points each, identify this software engineering movement whose name indicates its goal of reducing the time needed to develop software. It is often contrasted with the waterfall model.
Agile.
Yes. Unlike the waterfall model, agile programming integrates these things into development. Usability is improved when software undergoes the beta form of these things.
Testing.
Yes. Continuous delivery and continuous integration of code are part of this practice with a portmanteau name. In agile development, automated builds are a part of this process. Answer? It's DevOps, so 20 on the bonus there. Toss-up number 8. This is the surname of a literary critic who attacked Jean-Jacques Rousseau in 1919's Rousseau and Romanticism. That man, whose first name was Irving, was a leader of the New Humanism. A literary character with this last name supports his son Ted's elopement with Eunice Littlefield. That character has an affair with... Yep, for 10. And your bonus. One of these literary characters impregnates Rosa Sachs, who marries the other member of this pair to help him hide his homosexuality. For 10 points each, name these 2 cousins, one of whom escapes Prague in a coffin. Answer? It's Cavalier and Clay. This author of the Yiddish Policeman's Union depicted those characters in The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. Yeah. This later Sheba novel follows the Jewish bandits Zeligman and Amram, who participate in a rebellion in medieval Khazaria. Answer?
No answer.
That's Gentleman of the Road, so 10 of the most. Toss-up. Johann Gottlieb Graun wrote about 60 concertos for this instrument and taught Wilhelm Friedemann Bach to play it. In the 19th century, the virtuoso Ferdinand David edited the sonata for 15, and your bonus. Henry Proctor's hasty retreat to Fort Malden precipitated a slaughter at this site as wounded soldiers from Kentucky were killed by Native American forces. For 10 points each, name is River in Michigan. That was the site of a massacre near Frenchtown in the War of 1812. Answer? That is River Raisin. This chief's Shawnee troops supported Proctor's British army during the battles of Frenchtown near the Raisin River. He perished at the Battle of the Thames. Yep. In September 1813, Kentucky exacted a measure of revenge when this colonel retook Frenchtown from the British. He later served as the 9th U.S. Vice President. Answer? It's Richard Mentor Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Toss-up. This substance tells a song about a person awaiting the hour of reprisal who is trapped in purgatory, a lifeless object alive. That song, named for this substance, was covered on Strange Little Girls by Tori Amos. It falls from A Lacerated Sky in a song whose similarly named album opens with a song about Joseph Mengele titled Angel of Death. An album by Slayer is titled Rain In for 10 points. For 10. For 10 points each, answer the point about phonetic transcription. This set of symbols with one-to-one correspondence between sound and symbol can be used to transcribe any language and was introduced in 1897.
I do.
Yes. This type of transcription attempts to capture all relevant phonetic information, including allophone variants and sometimes intonation. Answer? It's a narrow transcription. Unlike a narrow transcription, a broad transcription often ignores these features such as stress and length, which affect more than one sound and can cross word boundaries. Answer?
No.
That's a super segmental, so 10 of the bonus there. Toss up. In one play, an envoy from this city is rebuked since its leader cannot hide the sun with a blanket or put the moon in his pocket. In this city, in that play, a Dutchman and a Spaniard in Philario's house watch as a bet is made over the seductive prowess of Iachimo. A princess disguised as a boy named Fidele is found by troops from the city. Is found by troops from the city where Posthumus Leonatus flees after he's exiled for eloping with Imogen. Cymbeline refuses to pay tribute to, for 10 points, what city ruled by Caesar? Yes. The Perron method works by finding a function of this type with boundary values no larger than the specified values. For 10 points each, name these functions. As their name suggests, they are defined by being bounded above over some closed balls by some solution to Laplace's equation. Answer.
Basis functions.
Those are subharmonic functions. The Perron method is used for Laplace's equation with these boundary conditions in which the solution and not its derivative is specified on the boundary.
First order.
It's directly subharmonic functions satisfy a principle with this name. For a smooth function, this type of local extremum has a negative second derivative.
Okay, maximum?
Yes. So that's 10 on the bonus, that's the half. Problem number 12. During this king's reign, the border fortresses known as the Five Sons of Carcassonne became obsolete after he annexed Roussillon. At the beginning of his reign, this king's forces ended the supremacy of the Spanish Tercio by winning the Battle of Rocroi.
Louis XIII.
That's fine.
Sorry.
The Battle of Rocroi. He agreed to marry Maria Theresa of Spain in the Treaty of the Pyrenees, which provided the pretext for his invasion of the Spanish Netherlands in the War of Devolution. For 10 points, he was Sun King of France. Yes, 10. Your bonus. Mike Davis's book, City of Ports, provides a history of this city by excavating the future. For 10 points each, name the city. Events in this city described in Davis's book include the Rami. Yes. Davis's book discusses this commune founded by Job Harriman north of Los Angeles in 1914, which collapsed after conflicts over its board of directors.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. So many. Like it's like
Answer.
Elysium or something.
It's Yano. Davis also discussed this man's view of public spaces as the emollient of class struggle. This urban planner was commissioned by the New York Daily Times to tour the South and write the Cotton Kingdom.
Yeah.
Yes, 20.
That's my dad.
This group evolved out of the ancient Brotherhood of the Spear. Its European leader, Count Otto Vermis, recruited Jessica Drew as an agent. The Death Spore bomb's explosion supposedly killed this group's supreme leader, the former Nazi Wolfgang von Struck.
Is this Hydra?
15. In 2017, one of these columns noted that Russell Wilson looked ebullient and aglow while hosting the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Sports Awards. For 10 points each, name this annual Deadspin series in which Drew McGarry denigrates every NFL franchise.
Why your team sucks?
No, what?
Why your favorite?
No, it's not why. It's I don't know.
Answer.
Why your team sucks?
Yes. The 2017 Why Your Team Sucks column on this team began your team 28-3, your 2016 record 28-3, mocking this Matt Ryan quarterback team for losing Super Bowl 51. Yes. Another 2017 column noted that Junior Gillette had accused this man, the 2006 AP Coach of the Year, of moving his team's training camp to West Virginia so he could bone his girlfriend.
It's the Saints, I think. Who's the coach of the Saints?
Answer. It's Sean Payton.
Yeah.
So 20 in the box. Toss-up. A suburb of this city called Helwan was the site of a major Soviet-funded steelworks. An island in this city is home to the affluent neighborhood of Zamalek, which was once home to Kulthum. Officials still use the Abdeen Palace in this city, whose old district contains the Hanging Church and the former city of Fustat. Its metro provides access to Al-Azhar University as well as Giza. For 10 points, name a city whose Tahrir Square was the site of protests against. In a Sir Walter Scott poem, this man enters a magic vault where he has a vision of his defeat at the hands of the Moors. For 10 points each, him his last Gothic king of Spain, who is also the protagonist of a Robert Southey poem that climaxes at the Battle of Covadonga. Answer? It's Roderick. In his play Count Julian, this British author told Roderick's story from the perspective of a Christian nobleman. His other works include the poem Rose Aylmer. Answer? That's Walter Savage Landor. The stories of Roderick and Julian are recounted in Legends of the Conquest of Spain, a book by this American author, the sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon. 10. Toss-up. This museum's former curator, Hugh Edwards, patronized Danny Lyon's Bleak Beauty movement. Part of the basement of this art museum is devoted to Narcissa Thorne's miniatures, which depict the interiors of various houses. The main room of stock exchange, designed by Louis Sullivan, is reproduced in this museum, which contains Gustave Caillebott's Paris Street Rainy Day.
Like, the Art Institute of Chicago.
This pen name may have been used by Lev Nussenbaum, also used the pen name SF Bey to publish Blood and Oil in the Orient. For 10 points each, give the name used by the pseudonymous author of the Azerbaijani novel Ali and Nino.
Any idea?
Answer.
Nothing.
That is Kurban Said. This 1978 book by Edward Said argues that Western cultures have romanticized the Middle East.
Orientals, yeah.
Yes, in 1840, the ruler Said bin Sultan moved his capital from Muscat to this island where his family built the House of Wonders.
No, it's Zanzibar? Zanzibar. Zanzibar.
Yeah, 20 on the bonus. Toss-up. In 2017, this man proposed building a wall around a separatist region as leader of the movement of new forces. In December 2017, his supporters freed him from a police van when he was arrested after threatening to jump off of his.
Yeah.
For 15.
Nice.
During a battle at this castle in the First Barons War, the Comte du Perche was defeated by William Marshall. For 10 points each, name his castle, which was also the site of an 1141 battle at which Stephen of Blois was captured. Answer, it's Lincoln Castle. This empress ruled England after the Battle of Lincoln during the period known as the Anarchy.
Yeah. Matilda.
Yes, Matilda's second husband was this member of the Plantagenet family. Her child by him, the future Henry II, became the heir to the English throne by the terms of the Treaty of Wallingford.
Henry of Anjou.
It's Geoffrey Plantagenet. So 10 of the bonus there. Toss-up. Number 17. A period of two-party politics in this country was called its 1955 system. In 1960, the leader of this country's Socialist Party was stabbed to death on live TV.
Japan.
15. It's your bonus. For centuries, the independent state of Kutu-Mistu existed on the border of these two countries near Ourense province. For 10 points each, name these two countries that have the longest uninterrupted border in the Schengen area. Their border touches the Evora and Beja districts.
France and Spain.
Like Spain and Portugal. This river forms part of the border between Spain and Portugal as it flows towards Lisbon, where it empties into the Atlantic Ocean. Yes. Spain de facto governs the disputed town of Olivença, which is found near the Portuguese border of this autonomous community. Its Monfragua National Park is home to many birds.
Is that
Yes, for 20. Toss-up number 18. This work asserts that Edward Young's Night Thoughts are part of its title movement from one end to the other, while Victor Hugo is a member of the movement when he isn't stupid. This work praises the Comte de Lautremont's definition of beauty and asserts the marvelous is always beautiful. This work, which imagines a man cut by a window, laments that we are still living under the reign of logic. Pure psychic automatism defined.
Surrealist Manifesto.
10. Bonus. A blind girl mistakes two brothers for each other in this author's novel, Poor Miss Finch. For 10 points each, famous author of the play The Frozen Deep, who wrote about an 1868 novel in which Godfrey Ablewhite is discovered dead under a disguise. Answer?
Collins.
Yes, the title object of this Collins novel is stolen from Rachel Verinder. Among the characters involved in the theft are Franklin Blake and Ablewhite.
Moonstone.
Yes, Magdalene, the daughter of Andrew Vanstone, attempts to regain her father's fortune from his nephew Noel in this other Collins novel. Answer.
Nothing.
No name, 20 on the bonus there. Toss-up number 19. TA proteins can avoid binding to this protein, instead binding to TRC40. In bacteria, this protein's methionine-rich M domain is called FFH and binds to the receptor FTSY. The sign family transposon ALU is derived from this protein's 7S RNA. This ribonucleoprotein arrests elongation by binding to hydrophobic sequences on the N termini of nascent polypeptides, sending them to translocons. For 10 points, name this
SRP.
Yes, 10 on your bonus. 10 on the top there. Your bonus. This essay criticized mercantilism with an argument about the price-species flow mechanism. For 10 points each, name this essay on monetary theory by David Hume, which Paul Krugman described as offering arguably the first real economic model. Answer?
Theory of trade.
Of the balance of trade. Hume's essay on this school of thought asserts that nothing is as ridiculous as attempts to produce an artificial happiness by rules of reason. This school's namesake wrote a 37-volume work on nature. Answer?
Lucretius.
It's Epicureanism. Hume wrote that the English theater abounds too much with shocking images in an essay on this artistic genre, which is discussed in Aristotle's Poetics. Answer?
Theater. Drama.
Prompt.
Performance. Epic theater.
Okay, it's tragedy, so I don't know. Toss-up. A future senator from this state was Robert Jackson's executive trial counsel at the Nuremberg trials and was later the only senator censured in the 1960s. Another senator from this state denounced Gestapo tactics at the 1968 For 10. Your bonus. This field of study analyzes highly conserved toolkit genes such as PAX6. For 10 points each, is a synthetic biological field that analyzes differences in the embryonic growth of organisms to elucidate ancestral differences among them. Yes, genetic drivers of development exhibit the deep form of this concept. This term describes dissimilar structures with shared ancestry, like bird wings and vertebrate forelimbs. Yes. Embryonic gene expression in evo-devo studies is knocked down using these synthetic molecules consisting of DNA bases attached to a backbone of heterocyclic rings. It's a morpholino, so 20 on the bonus there. Toss-up. The knowledges of this group, such as border thinking, are discussed in Walter Mignolo's Local Histories Global Designs, which refers to it in the subtitle. Jacques Derrida's term entre describes a buffer separating this group in an essay, arguing that the Foucault-Deleuze conversation short-circuits the crisis of the subject. This term, coined by Antonio Gramsci, was used by South Asian scholars to create
Subaltern.
Okay. This aspect ratio changes during a montage set to the entirety of the Oasis song Wonderwall. For 10 points each, name this aspect ratio used for most of Javier Dolan's 2014 film Mommy.
13:9. Oh, it's like the iPhone. Like the iPhone. I don't know.
Answer?
13:9.
That's 1-to-1.
Oh,
This director used 3 different aspect ratios to differentiate the timelines in the Grand Budapest Hotel. Yes. One of the aspect ratios used in the Grand Budapest Hotel is 1.37 to 1, which is given this name that references the fact that it was the standard ratio used for studio films until 1953.
Academy.
For 20. Good. Toss-up. This noun names a network configuration whose R2R type is a common digital to analog converter. A set of isospin operators named for this net.
Ladder.
15. Donald Trump's proposed 2019 budget includes $13 billion to fight a crisis blamed on these drugs. For 10 points each, name this class of drugs that includes fentanyl as well as illegal drugs such as heroin. Answer? Opioids. Yes, a statewide office to combat opioids was created by this state's Attorney General, Gurbir Grewal. This state converted the closed prison Fort Dix into a rehab facility. Answer? Sorry? New Jersey. This state's Attorney General, Patrick Morrissey, has sought to reduce its overdose rate, which is per capita the highest in the U.S. 2018 statewide protests in this state used the slogans 55 strong and do your job so I can do mine. Answer?
West Virginia?
Yes, for 10. Toss-up. An alternate name for coccidiomycosis. I'll wait for that to stop. Okay. Sorry. An alternate name for coccidiomycosis disease is this region's namesake fever. A formerly widespread rush plant names this region's pervasive tule fog and the now extinct Tulare Lake that once dominated its southern portion. The migratory birds of the
Like the Central Valley.
4-10. And your bonus. This man's poorly written memoirs about his World War II service treated the minor battle of Novorossiysk as a decisive engagement. For 10 points each, in this man who oversaw the 8th, 9th, and 10th five-year plans during his time leading his country. Answer?
Brezhnev.
Yes. Brezhnev was awarded this honor, the highest military decoration for Soviet service during World War II, but it was revoked after his death.
Sure.
Order of Winter?
It's Order of Victory. As of August 2017, the only living recipient of the Order of Victory is Michael I, the final monarch of this European country, also ruled by Karl II. Yeah. So 20 on the bonus. And okay, so we have one more game.